Hey everybody!
Hey everybody!
Come on in, take a seat in our chairs. Please come in. Settle, great, good. Do we have a direction? Have you got some direction?
Yeah, so
Good.
really our combo today. I'm very excited. I think we've got the best topic of the day. Sorry for everybody else. So we're going to be talking about down the rabbit hole. I'll just wait until, has everyone got a seat? Everyone comfy? We're going to be talking about crypto down the rabbit hole. So where is this technology going? Yeah, so I think everybody has that little moment where they've had that tipping point where, you know, you've kind of heard about Bitcoin, heard a little bit about crypto, maybe blockchain, what is all this, and then there's that moment that you go down that rabbit hole and there is no turning back. So this panel today is going to talk about where this could potentially go in the future. There's a lot of media hype around the price of Bitcoin and where that's going, but I think everybody here on this panel today, we're all blockchain believers. We really want to talk about what the social implications are of this new tech and what is it actually going to look like in the future. So I thought what we could do is perhaps go down the panel and just explain a little bit about who you are and what you do, but maybe tell us, what was your moment that you went down the rabbit hole?
Yeah, so I listened to these political podcasts in 2010, for a long time, and all of a sudden somebody called in and said, hey, have you heard of Bitcoin? These are all silver and gold bugs, you know? And so, it's not backed by gold, it's not worth it. But they had their questions answered slowly, and their skepticisms changed, and I got to learn as they learned. My objections were answered on a podcast, and then I became a believer there too. So I started selling smoothies at a campground for Bitcoin, to a place that actually were Bitcoin people around, and I sold 7 smoothies for Bitcoin in 2012. So that was my rabbit hole moment, and from that point forward it was, I kept on buying Bitcoin. Tax returns, Bitcoin. I owned some properties, rent came in, Bitcoin. How much can I spare? Buy some more Bitcoin. And it was great. That was my rabbit hole. And hearing people smarter than me, that is a big, powerful thing. So that was my rabbit hole moment.
Hello everybody, my name is Ben Young. I co-founded Zap. I had a kind of rabbit hole moment. I guess I got really lucky. And it was like 2014, I looked on YouTube for a video about Bitcoin and I stumbled upon Andreas Antonopoulos, who has possibly the best speech, riling speech about Bitcoin. And he kind of hooked me, and then I started doing all my own research, and I was kind of a weird kid messing with eBay and PayPal, and I learned very early on all those fees that companies take just to process your money. And when I kind of realized that Bitcoin gets rid of that, and I kind of just immediately clicked with me.
My name is James Drake. I'm the CEO of Embermine. We are a blockchain platform that is designed to give true agency to artists to be able to control their own art, utilize their own creativity power to harness their own value, and be able to share that equally with people without fear or concern. The genesis of the reason why I started the project was because I was a publisher. I was a small publisher, independent publisher. I published under the label Realmwalker Publishing Group. And over the course of about 18 months, I signed 15 authors. We released 27 books, including my own and my wife's. And we lost $135,000. And we did everything on the cheap. I did all the editing myself. My wife did all the actual text editing. And I said, you know, the biggest problem here is because I sell a book to Amazon, you know, a digital book. They didn't pay a single cent to me to hold that inventory. And yet they got 30% for just providing a platform to sell it. And when you're talking about $2 here, $3 there, you can sell an awful lot of books and go broke really, really fast. And I discovered something, as I said, well, I wanted physical copies of my books as well, because I had, you know, friends and family that wanted to have the actual physical experience of it. And when I made some of these books, it just cost me a couple dollars per book to have them printed up and done through Ingram. And when I sent a bunch of them to Amazon, they sent me back a check for $1,800. I went, wait a second. You know, I've sold 700 books on their digital platform and they never gave me anything up front. I paid a couple dollars extra and they sent me $1,800 for all of my books. They paid for the inventory that was in their control. And I said, there's something wrong with this. And the problem is, there is no such thing, at least before 2008, as digital inventory. Certain digital inventory. And I started thinking of all the friction that exists at the lower levels, these handshake deals that most people do to get their books off the ground, to get their own personal project. You know, you're talking about housewives and people that get laid off from the factory that are looking to do something with their lives and take that great idea, and all their friends are saying, yeah, that's an amazing book, you should put that out there. Only to realize that in order to get a book professionally published and put out on Amazon, even the digital format, it's going to cost $3,000 to $5,000. 90% of all books ever published on Amazon never hit that amount in their entire lifetimes. So you're talking about 10% failure or a success rate, 90% failure rate, and it's, you know, inordinately punishes those that have the least amount to spare in that regard. And those are the people that are very starting out with their art. I was going to try to build this system without blockchain. 18 months ago, I was sitting there, you know, my company was just not, you know, I wanted to make it so where it's artist-centric, where they got the majority of the royalties. And I realized why artists only get 6%. It's because everybody puts a hand in the pocket. So I was trying to think of a way where you could create digital contracts that would allow people to be able to have a digital contract that would automatically split revenue. I was trying to build this using existing systems. I knew nothing about blockchain. I'd heard of Bitcoin and stuff like that at that time. I had no idea about it. And I sat there and struggled. I came up with this idea I thought was amazing, but I couldn't get past the one thing. How do you make it certain? How do you know for sure that this inventory item is actually a product that somebody deserves to have? So we struggled with it for a while, and then my nephew said to me, have you heard of Ethereum? I said, oh no. He sent me the website, and for about an hour, I thought that I was too late. That somebody had already figured out how to make these contracts exist. And then I read a little bit further, and I realized that Ethereum is just basically an operating system for these type of contracts. So I started thinking, how can we do this better? And that's my rabbit hole. My nephew didn't see me for 2 months. And as my friend Josh Redwine, he's in the back there, he's our photographer, he said that, you know, like I appeared all disheveled and I'm like, Morty, I discovered the future. And I had this moment where I realized that this is the future. And whether or not the people in Amazon or the banks of the world, the governments of the world, the power brokers of the world, the people that you had to ask permission to use your value with. You had to ask permission to get your money and get your funds, to be able to transmit something. You had to ask permission for that. That no longer you have to do that. And I realized at that very moment, the rabbit hole is for everybody. This is going to happen whether anybody wants it to or not.
And whether it's publishing, data, airlines, they can all be built on these platforms, digital platforms, and it's just amazing.
Yeah, I think we'll go into a bit more about smart contracts and sex too. Oh, you right?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. So hey everybody, my name's Leah Callan Butler. I'm the co-founder and engagement director for Internet. We are a cryptocurrency that has been designed especially for the adult and sex tech industries. And so what we do, we actually facilitate payments, trust and reputation for those industries. So just to break that down, we've heard a lot today about problems with banks and institutional bias. This particular industry suffers from that probably more so than most others. One that gets lumped in with it would be cannabis and gaming as well. Really comes down to stigmatization and taboo. But what it ends up is if you can get banked at all, so say you're a sex tech entrepreneur, you've got an idea to launch, you want to go in and start up a business. The kind of resources that other entrepreneurs would take for granted, you cannot access if you're in this industry. So it's incredibly high barriers to entry. If you can find a bank to open an account for you, they're probably going to charge you exorbitant fees, you're probably going to get used to having your accounts frozen. It's just an absolute nightmare.
Well, and just to point out, those are legal industries. Legal but unpopular industries.
Exactly, yeah. So it really just comes down to stigma, and it's really unfair. We'll go into that a little bit more later. I won't spend too much time on it. But the second layer of our crypto, which I think is really interesting and what I want to go into more today, because there's so much chat about the value of crypto and how it can be used for financial services, but it goes so much further than that. So the Intimate token actually has a trust and reputation layer built into it. And what that means is that within this industry, you can imagine an adult. People want to be able to transact privately, but they also want to do it safely and securely. So that's what this token allows people to do. And we'll go into that a little bit more later. To share with you my rabbit hole moment, I actually have a background working in renewable energy. I worked in commercial and industrial solar thermals. And I actually left that industry because I was so sick of it. I hated the conversations that were going on. It was like, solar's better, wind is better, blah, blah, blah. It's like, this is not what we should be talking about. We should be talking about how we produce and consume and share energy so we can actually move to a future that is sustainable and resilient. But no one really cared about that.
Nobody ever cares about
I was
that.
like, imagine if we could take the power away from the centralized energy producers and the infrastructure providers and actually literally give the power back to the people so they could share between themselves. Oh, imagine if a technology existed like that. So it was actually only about a year ago, I was sitting with a mentor of mine that I didn't realize was a blockchain developer. And I told him this story and he said, I'm going to send you a case study. Let me know what you think. And it was the Brooklyn Microgrid project. Has anyone heard about the BMG? Yeah, so BMG was a project that was launched by Consensus, which is a company that builds Ethereum projects. We'll go into that a bit more later. Essentially what it was the first time that anyone ever proved that using blockchain technology, you could produce solar on your own roof and share it with your neighbor. Like, this is crazy. That was never, no one could do that before because it was a centralized market where the best you could do, if you're producing more solar than you can use, the best you could do is stick it in a battery and use it later or sell it back to the people who would sell it to you at 3 times the price of what they buy it. So this was revolutionary and my mind was blown. I thought, wow, this is absolutely the future. But then I got kind of obsessed with like, wow, you know, if we can do it for financial services, and we can do it for financial markets, and we can do it for publishing and royalties, if we can do it for privacy, you know, what else can we apply this to? So that's where I kind of want to go with this discussion today and have a talk about what blockchain is really built for. And I thought perhaps we could talk about it. There's a lot of different concepts in there, you know, decentralization, peer-to-peer markets, privacy. Perhaps we could all take one concept and say how it relates to your business at the moment and where is it going in the future? Where is it now and what's it going to look like in the future? Because honestly, I don't know that anyone today could possibly imagine how blockchain is going to reimagine our society.
So this is less of a rabbit hole, because rabbit holes sound like complex deep dives. I'll do something simpler. So membership tokens.
Yeah.
Very basic membership tokens. Like a library or a book reading club. You're a member of the book club, you can trade those books amongst yourselves if you want to. You can buy, the club can collect money through memberships to buy more books, you know, to trade with people or to give them away, for example, like that. So Ethereum is a company that's applying, at first, our first app is a membership thing, where the 2%, or maybe the 5%, maybe the 10%, we're dropping the price of private jet airline down by using the efficiencies of the blockchain, the Ethereum blockchain. So a membership token is you hold your tokens on your phone or some other computer, and the systems recognize that, oh, you own this token, and only you can own this token. You're a member of the Ethereum network, for example. You can use that to buy tickets, you can use that for this. You can possibly in the future trade it to other people. And these memberships ideas can go to all kinds of industries, you know. Strip clubs can have memberships on tokens.
They have one.
And they do.
They do have one.
What's the name of that place, Mark?
Legends.
Legends in Vegas is a
heard.
blockchain membership, token. And you go in there, you get discounts.
Yeah, the crazy thing is they don't sell them as zero decimal tokens, so you can have part of a seat license or a membership license to it, And they had to turn a bunch of people away because they thought that if they came in and they had one token, they would be able to get in. And or like 1/10, that they just had to have some of it. And it actually created, a little bit of an issue, and people were like, you didn't tell us that this was, I had to have a whole one and it was gonna cost $500. And, so they're buying 1/10 of one or 100th of one for $5. But yeah, it's crazy because, it goes to the point of what they were saying about the education, is that a lot of people hear it and they think it's a great idea, and then they go buy some without even realizing what is the structure around the coin. And it's nice to hear that you guys have, incorporated that into bringing, the
private air travel closer to the everyday person is one of the concepts that we're going to do. And it's based on membership, and that's not hard to understand, right? There's no confusion about that. But the unique properties of every single token, whether it's yours or yours or yours, is one of them is that it's identifiable. You can't copy this token. You can't make multiple thousands of copies like an MP3 file. So membership, that's one of the concepts.
Can I throw it to you, Ben? I just want to ask a question. Who here has heard of a smart contract? Can we see a show of hands? Okay, awesome. Leave your hand up if you understand how they work. That's pretty good.
About 10.
Yeah, I'm impressed. We've got a smart audience here today. I'm stoked. So, Ben, do you want to give us a bit of an overview? What is a smart contract?
Sure.
How does it work? What does it apply to?
So you can think of Bitcoin. What it did is it made it so that you don't have to, I maybe don't trust someone I'm buying something on the internet, so I'm gonna pay through PayPal, and I trust that if PayPal says I got paid, I got paid. What Bitcoin does is it takes away those fees I talked about, because you don't have someone in the middle like PayPal that wants to make money off of that trust, right? It's just a system that works.
Well, and with PayPal, someone can say 6 months later, I didn't get my shoes in the mail.
Oh, that too.
Right? But
So what smart contracts do, though, is they take the idea of, that getting rid of the middleman trust part, right? So you're not getting rid of trust, but you're shifting it. So you're not trusting PayPal, you're trusting this system, cryptocurrency based on that. And what smart contracts do is they expand what you can do on that platform. So now you're not just sending money and trusting that you got paid. You can make a whole program, or like a whole series of events, like if-then statements that are going to happen. And you don't have to trust that this platform is actually doing what it's saying, because you can read that little program, right, or that smart contract, if you will. You can read it. It's on the blockchain, and just like your payment is verified, and you can trust it because you can read it in that public blockchain. You can read the code of this smart contract, and you know what you're sending your money to when you do that. And so you don't have to, let's say, you're making a bet on whether the Yankees or the Red Sox win the game, right? And the person you're betting with, they don't like the outcome of the game because they lost, and they just decide that they're not going to pay. Or, they fudge the data and say that actually the Red Sox won when the Yankees definitely won. With the smart contract, you program everything in advance, and you put up your money. That's how you sign the contract, is by putting up the money that you want to have associated with the outcome of this smart contract. And then you can trust 100% that, depending on what the actual real life outcome is, that you're going to get paid appropriately. And you don't have to worry about not getting paid or the outcome being incorrect.
So the concept is you've removed humans from this particular loop, right? Because humans can make mistakes. They can be bribed.
Your company can get shut down?
They can be shut down by governments. They can be killed or blackmailed, right? They can be politicians who want to help their friends and punish their enemies. Smart contracts remove human beings, and you rely on math, because no matter, I love this line from Eric Voorhees, no matter how many guns you point at 2 + 2, it's always going to be 4. And that's the basis of these smart contracts.
I wanted to say that the interesting thing that's happening, and it's happening with blockchain technology right now, is that of course we have Bitcoin, and we talked about that and how it started. And learning about the digital certainty and digital scarcity aspects of it, that led Vitalik to go forward and try to talk about the idea of smart contracts and creating this idea that if you have both digital certainty and digital scarcity, that you can create contracts that, based on some sort of input or some sort of, like you were saying, some sort of conditions, that would process that transaction according to a certain format. That's basically how we assess the revenue share in any art project or creative project that would be on our platform. But all of this is extrapolations of knowledge. And then once we know how to do one thing, we can miniaturize it, we can make it more efficient, we can make it stronger, we can make it better and faster. We did that with, sort of vacuum tubes and then transistors and then microchips. Now, it's completely different technology, but we learned things and we were able to extrapolate them. And that's kind of what we took with ours, because we're taking smart contracts to the next level. Smart contracts now are not just the programmatic means which certain features are actually, or certain functions are actually processed, but it's actually the consensus model by which the blockchain operates on. We've developed a Techne blockchain. We're releasing at the end of this year that won't require proof of work or proof of stake, meaning that there's no energy consumption in the process of the transaction. That right now, blockchain technologies, all of them, spend half of their power just removing bad transactions. Well, so that's a good.
We're running out of time.
Oh,
I
we
mean,
are running
I've
out
been
of
given the 4 minutes, the 4 fingers. And we definitely, see what I mean when you go down the rabbit hole. I did want to talk more about the concept of trust. I think somebody might pick that up later because I think that's a word that gets thrown around all the time, but it's so important to blockchain. So I'd encourage everyone to have a chat about the idea of trust later. I think we've got time for maybe one question. Does anyone want to jump onto the panel? Ooh. We'll go two. Yep. Okay, you had your turn. Okay, yeah. What are oracles? Okay, who wants to take that?
Well, that's a really great question.
Yeah.
I think I know a thing or two
softball.
about that. So,
Show of hands, who knows what an oracle is? Okay, good question then. So let's
definitely
tackle
definitely not the giant software company. It's a term in smart contracts, I guess you could say, and in that smart contract I talked about the the Red Sox Yankee game. Everything in that smart contract is written in Solidity. It's on the blockchain, except for the outcome of that baseball game. So the oracle is going to basically report the outcome of the baseball game onto the blockchain, and then the smart contract can read the outcome and do its thing and send the money where it belongs.
Where does that information come from? The winning team, where does that come from?
So that is kind of up to you, right? So what we're doing with Zap is we're making an open marketplace where you can search for data that you want to use in a smart contract, and you can choose your provider. So you might say, I want MLB.com's data for $5, or you could say, I trust this guy Billy Joe, and he wants 10 cents. And it's sort of up to you, and you decide with the person you're making a smart contract where you want to get the data from.
Unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it there. We should have a glossary of terms going on the screen, shouldn't we? That was amazing. Thank you so much, guys. We'll have to have a chat later. We'd love to hear from you.